Good afternoon. I'm John Rickey, Chair of the Personnel Committee. And first thing we'll start off with is roll call. Please.
Mr. Ricky?
That's your
Here.
cue.
Mrs. Hanchett?
Here.
Mrs. Burdick?
Here.
Mr. Havey?
Here.
Mrs. Ricketts Swales?
Here.
Mrs. Root?
Here.
Mr. Rumfeld?
Here.
Mr. Stockin?
Okay, thank you. We need approval of the minutes for April 6, 2020.
Root will make a motion.
Hanchett, second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? They're passed. First up, we have Kim Francisco, Deputy Personnel Officer. Hi, Kim.
You should have before you the July increments for employees that were hired before, or between 7/1 and 12/31 of '21 to receive their increment step for 2022.
Okay, anything else you want to add on that, or we just need to make it formal here?
Unless there's any questions.
Rumfeld will make that motion.
Rumfeld motions, got a second?
Ricketts Swales, second.
So we need discussion on that, anyone? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That is passed.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kim. Next up, Sheriff Rick Whitney. Hello, Sheriff.
Good afternoon. I think actually most of you were in the room during the last meeting, so I can go over this again if you want, or we can just present it.
Well, let's get a motion to open up some discussion then.
Root will make a motion for discussion.
Havey will second it.
Okay, open for discussion. Who's up?
I think Sheriff Whitney, you ought to go over it again because it's another session and another
Okay.
taping, and some people might not have heard what was said in the last session.
Okay. Well, basically, right now, we have an MOA with the deputies union that we can only hire part-time deputies back if they're retired from the sheriff's office. And we're having a very hard time filling all the details, like over the summer with the fair and the balloon rally and things like that. We just don't have enough full-time deputies that are willing to go out and work the details. So we're trying to get an MOA with the union at this time to let us hire anybody that's a certified police officer as a part-time deputy to fill out these details. And we're just starting the thing here. At this point, the pay rate is 17, and our part-time CO is 23. So we're just trying to get the pay rate for the part-time deputies up where it should be.
Mr. Healy?
Thank you, Chairman Rickey. Sheriff, maybe explain to some of the new legislators or people listening in, they might not understand what MOA is and,
Well, it's a memorandum of agreement, which if we want to change the contract in between contract negotiations, we can meet with the union and come up with basically a written agreement that we add something to the contract or change the contract before it's time to vote on it again.
Anyone else?
It should save you money in the long run because we'll be paying part-time deputies instead of full-time overtime for the outside
Right.
details, so.
Same with like you just did with the correction officers a
Right.
while back.
Yes.
Should be. Anybody else have anything to add? Oh, Mike, go ahead. Mr. Healy.
well, yeah, I think this is a good move on your part. Now, this will be binding into the next contract too, or until there's another change?
Yes, it would be, if it goes through, yes, it would be.
Okay.
Obviously, once the union is working on the first draft, and once we get it, obviously, we'll go through the chain here, the county administrator and our labor attorney, et cetera, to make sure everything's good before we agree to it, but.
And this would also, I assume, give you greater latitude in case of an emergency, in case you
Right.
had to deputize a vast number of people.
Yes.
Also, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Anything more, Mr. Healy?
No, I'm happy, Mr. Rickey.
Okay, great. Can we get a vote on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that is passed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Okay, let's see what we got here. Next up is, got some referrals from committees. The next thing, if I can get that to move, is from Planning and Economic Development.
Would you like me to, Planning and Economic Development, Planning Director Keir Durham is requesting permission to create 4 part-time temporary office aides in the planning office. The hourly rate of these positions will be $12.20 for each position, not to exceed a total of $20,000. This position is funded with 100% county funds, of which most of the funding is available in the 2022 budget due to unfilled positions within the planning department. No outside funding is available. These positions will be responsible for attending approximately 20 events from May through October. Current staff does not have the time to attend all these events while continuing their regular duties. The county will be represented at approximately 20 events this fall and summer, and I will make the motion.
Ms. Root, I believe it's 1320.
1320?
Yeah.
1320, sorry, thank you.
Yeah, no
Corrected.
problem.
We have a motion from Ms. Root. Do we have a second?
Ricketts Swale, second.
Okay, any discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. This is passed. Next, public safety.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Allegheny County District Attorney's Office is requesting permission to create 1 full-time third assistant district attorney, Section 4 bargaining unit, in the district attorney's office. The salary and cost of benefits to be determined. The third assistant district attorney will be assigned several town and village courts and will be responsible for prosecution of all cases, including felonies, through final resolution. Additionally, this position will have an emphasis on compliance with discovery obligations that create a tremendous time and resource burden on the district attorney's office, which cannot be adequately addressed with the current staff. There is no funding available from an external source. However, while this is a new position, it is replacing an already existing part-time position, the currently vacant position, which is budgeted at $70,000. It should be noted that the $70,000 salary was for a part-time position. Accordingly, we are seeking a higher salary than what was currently budgeted. The position will be funded with 100% county funds, and I will move that.
And I see Ms. Knapp, our county administrator, is at the podium. You'd like to add something before we
Well,
carry on?
so, because this is a new position, it was a part-time position, now we're creating it as a full-time position. You just heard what the salary was for a part-time position, was $70,000. The original request just said to be determined because personnel officer would need to make a recommendation here. Mr. Budinger and I talked, we looked at salaries of other attorneys within the county and felt that a full-time assistant DA should be $85,000. We are asking that we move forward with a resolution that salary be set for full-time third assistant district attorney at $85,000. And I just want to make an additional note that I do believe the district attorney's office is ready to hire as soon as possible, and that they are going to request that this resolution come off the floor next week. So we'll go to Ways and Means next week and then off the floor after that. So just to give you a heads up.
Okay, now that we've established the salary, I guess we take a motion on that, knowing the salary. Do we need to?
Does this need to be amended to include the salary?
I think that would be a good idea. And really what happens with these new positions, there is no salary set until you come to this committee, and that's where the personnel officer would come and make a recommendation, and then you'd do the motion to do this. So it's not only the motion coming out of public safety here, but also amending it to include that new information.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to withdraw my first motion and amend that to include the $85,000 salary, please.
Okay, so noted. And
Rumpfeld, second.
any discussion? Oh, sorry. Mr. Barnes?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask the administrator, I assume the part-time position that was funded under the budget did not include any extras as far as health insurance and so on and so forth, and this does, or,
Actually, the part-time one had full fringe on it, and this one will have full fringe, so
okay.
the percentage of fringe doesn't go up, just the total dollar amount, because total dollar amount's based on salary.
So the only thing that increases then is the $15,000.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, let's take a vote. All in favor? Aye. And that is passed. All against? Anybody? Okay, that is passed. And what else we have here? Referrals are over. How about old business? Yes, Mr. McCormick?
We're here today, Brent's here also, to bring you up to speed on what's going on with,
Mr. Ricky, maybe for those listening in, they might not know who Mr. McCormick is there, so maybe he should identify himself, or you
sure.
should identify him and.
Go ahead and
Mike
identify.
McCormick, Allegheny County Democratic Election Commissioner. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for the committee to kind of hear us out today. As you're aware, the state is in a position now to redistrict what they claimed was a redistrict like a month or so ago. So we're kind of in a holding pattern as far as Board of Elections. Because the congressional districts as they were outlined and approved by the Assembly, Senate, and Governor have been tossed out. So now there's been appointed what they call a special master, who is in charge of drawing the new congressional lines and the state Senate lines in New York State. The special master is supposed to have these lines ready by May 20th. So then we'll know our congressional district boundaries, our state Senate boundaries, and maybe the Assembly. We don't know if they're going to redraw the Assembly lines. So moving forward, we were going to have one primary in June for everything. But now we think we're going to have another primary, or we're pretty sure we're going to have another primary in August. So the primary day in June is June 28th. And on that June primary will be any local primaries in the county. There's some towns in the county that have primaries for justice or town supervisor or whatnot. Governor, there's going to be primaries on both sides of the aisle, Democrat and Republican for the governor, lieutenant governor, and comptroller. So in August, the way the calendar is, the August primary will consist of the congressional primary, state Senate primary, and we don't know about the Assembly, but that might be on there now. Furthermore, if the congressional boundaries are changed, the petitions that we all kind of worked at in February and March will be not correct. So I imagine there'll be another petition drive for at least the congressional seats. Because if they change the boundaries, some people might not had a chance to sign a petition for that seat. That's kind of what I wanted to bring you up to date with. So It's going to force us to have another primary that we didn't budget for in August, which I can give you the numbers on. The county cost of like an election, of course, you're running up. Each of these elections are going to have 10-day early voting. But basically our cost, or the county cost for any election, 10-day early voting, the technician fees, the mileages, it's just a little north of 20,000. The towns are going to have to contribute also because the towns pay all the inspectors and some of the tech costs. So, any questions? Okay, thank you.
Mike?
Sure.
And am I correct that the polls now open for a primary at 6 instead of noon like it used to be?
Correct. It's a full day, 6 till 9.
Legislator Harris?
Thanks. Because this predicament is the result of Democrat gerrymandering, do you think it would
There's
be
got to be
appropriate?
another, okay, go ahead.
Do you think it would be appropriate for this board to request the New York State Democratic Committee pay for the expenses of a second primary?
Fair question.
Wow. I think it's a bipartisan decision.
I'd like to say it's an excellent point, Legislator Harris.
Thank you. So you're telling me there's going to be a primary for comptroller and attorney general and
Those are the offices that are up in the first primary. I don't know if I know there's going to be a primary contesting for governor, lieutenant governor. I don't know if I really can't answer that right now about the comptroller and
attorney
the
general.
attorney general.
I think the answer is no.
I believe
Okay,
the answer's
I
no,
probably find out pretty easily, but
okay. Could you get back to us on that?
sure,
Thank you.
yeah. I know who the front runners are.
Legislator Barnes?
Yes, the statewide, unless the state boundaries are being changed, and I don't think that's the case, I don't see why anybody that's running statewide, governor, lieutenant governor,
Comptroller.
controller, and so forth, why those dates would have to be changed.
They're not.
Okay.
That primary is going to be in June,
Okay, so
coming,
I
yeah.
thought, I was a little bit confused there. the
I'm
way-
sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. It's the federal congressional seat.
Do we still have to man 2 polling sites for the entire early voting?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Legislator Fanton?
Yeah, do you have any indication about the new requirements that our people that work the polls are having problems signing people up with the new requirements that we've got, that they meet the county criteria?
That is an ongoing process, Dwight. We're, right now, we're contacting all our current inspectors, if they're going to be on the roster this year. And our response has not been what we'd like. Best way I could answer it.
So that's
Legislator
gonna-
Healy.
That's going to be an issue when it comes time for the elections.
Mr.
Yeah,
Mc-
we're actively seeking new election inspectors because our election inspector training is coming up May 20th. Or, It's coming right along here in a couple, 3 weeks.
This wasn't a requirement that the county put on that. It's a state requirement that we have to do it that way. So that's my understanding.
Yep.
Mr. McCormick?
Yep.
So what I've heard, I've had a couple of the inspectors contact me.
Okay.
That they got a letter or some information saying that they are now going to be considered employees of the county. Is that correct? And if that is correct, does that mean that they're eligible for benefits? Or is the county going to have to, is it going to cost the county additional money if they're employees of the county now?
I think maybe you'd like to go into executive session, to answer some questions about particular employment situations.
Legislator Healy?
I don't know if you're going to want to do that or not, but I got a quick question for you here.
Sure.
So we have two voting sites for early voting, correct?
Yep.
One-
Wellsville and at the Village Hall on Main Street, or Village, yeah, and then Board of Elections here on
Board of
Skyline.
Election. Could you tell me roughly how many people voted at the Wellsville site at the last election?
The last election there was the general election in November. I can't answer that question.
A great number, or?
No, it was not a busy site, but it served the need. I mean, probably a couple hundred people used that to vote.
And the Belmont location at the,
Probably be the same last
yeah.
November, or
thank you.
maybe a little more. But, I mean, it's available to the voters. It's a service we provide, and
Is that in your annual report?
I would imagine.
Okay.
And
Got more.
another thing that, we're pursuing absentee, everybody has a chance to absentee vote now. And once the absentee application is granted, we send a letter out with our packet that absentee voter is no longer able to vote on the voting machine. Before, if you have an absentee, you could vote on the machine, but we wouldn't open the absentee or we wouldn't recognize it. So we sent those letters out, and a lot of people, said, we don't want to use absentee anymore, we want to vote on the machine. So that's what we're up against.
Chairman Ricky, can we call for a short executive session to discuss the election inspector, his employees?
Seconds.
So we have a motion on the floor for an executive session to discuss a personnel matter? Or what would that be? A contract matter. It's motion,
I believe it's the employment history of a particular individual.
okay. Thank you. We have a first and a second. Do we have, let's take a vote on that. All in favor? Going to
Aye.
Opposed? Guess we're going to be in executive session.